we'll do a little bit of a review of Americans abroad. The headline of this: Christian Pulisic injured with a calf injury against
Yeah.
Atalanta on Friday in the first half.
Yeah, I was watching the game at the time, and it looked fairly innocuous. I mean, it looked like a foul that Pulisic takes on a fairly regular basis. He got kicked from behind. I thought that the kick itself was such a nothing burger that when I watched back the replay, I was like, well, he kind of extends his leg and his foot kind of goes out. Maybe he did something to his Achilles. Maybe he tweaked an Achilles, and that would be much more of a reason to come off in that moment than what looked to be not much of a. But it ended up being a pretty tough, pretty hard kick. He's got a tear in his muscle, and he's going to be out for what, at least a month now. I mean, it's not a panic-inducing thing for me because I know that he's got a history, Rob. I know that we don't like Christian Pulisic being on the shelf because it gives us flashbacks to when he couldn't get on the field with Chelsea, and it was this constant story about he's a fragile player, he can't stay healthy. But it's the winter. There's no national team duty until March. He has been playing quite a bit, I think, in terms of where he is in his career. I mean, this might be the longest run of consistent and regular minutes as he's ever had, and that's taking on a load. He's been playing a lot for the national team as well. Obviously, we had the controversy about leaving for the Mexico game, but if he gets a little bit of recuperation here, and this is not a serious injury, I'm not okay with it, but I'm not panicking.
I didn't realize that Christian had also entered into the WAGs column over there. He's got a professional golfer girlfriend. I didn't know
Oh,
about that.
that's been for a while. Rob, where you been, man? Keep up on your footballer Instagrams. What are you doing?
I
This
guess
is life now. This is where you're at. Come on.
Yeah, I gotta keep my nose to the ground on these sort of things.
Well, I will say, in relation to Christian Pulisic, I did feel some responsibility for Pulisic getting hurt.
Oh wow!
Oddly enough,
that's some okay.
yeah. I thought maybe I had done something cosmically because the on Friday, I was getting ready for. We had done morning kick around. Obviously, the game hadn't happened yet, and I'm getting ready for my radio show in the afternoon, and I've got this block of time, and I'm like, you know what? Hey, the Paramount sent me a screener for the first episode of the documentary on Christian Pulisic that they're putting out. And I was like, hey, I can watch this. I can finally watch this screener. It's been in my inbox for a couple days. I'll watch this screen. I'll watch this episode. So I watched the first episode of the Pulisic documentary, which I'm not supposed to talk about. There's some sort of embargo thing. You know how they do this. You can't talk about it until it's released. I'll say this. It's worth watching. But I watched it, and then I flipped over to the game, Atalanta Milan, and Pulisic comes off injured. I'm like, oh, no, what did I do? I watched a documentary about him, and now he's hurt. It's my fault. It's my fault. I'm sorry, everybody.
That's a lot of internalization. Hopefully, every single injury of American players doesn't affect you so deeply moving forward.
I take it very personally when American players are injured. Ones I like, ones that are good. I do. I take it very personally.
In better news, Yunus Musa played the full 90 in that same game against Atalanta.
I just double-checked, by the way. The doc drops today. Episode 1 is today. I can talk about it. Do you want my review of the Pulisic documentary, the first episode that's over on Paramount Plus? Okay, 30 seconds or so. Again, I think it's worth watching. The story about Christian Pulisic has been that he is a closed-off guy. Like, he's a private guy. He's a quiet guy. He doesn't love the spotlight. Despite his talent, all those things that come with it have been tough for him. That they talk about that in this documentary, right? There is some of that. It's guys like Jurgen Klopp and Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Clint Dempsey kind of saying, like, this is what you have to do. This comes with the territory. I mean, Zlatan in particular, who's obviously got a leadership role in Milan, was saying, you're Captain America. You might not want that, but you are Captain America for us. You're Milan's ambassador to the United States, to America, to that part of the world. And you have to do stuff like this. So there's that. There's a little bit of his background. His family's in there. Some interviews with some commentary from people that you would think would have some insight on what it's like to be Christian Pulisic or what his role is. Christian Vieri's in there. They talk a little bit. I thought it was funny. They talk about Alexi Lalas being in Italy. He was one of the first American players to be in that kind of environment. He played at Padova, I think. Christian Vieri was like, I played against Alexi Lalas. He wasn't a bad player. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what, pretty good. Kristen Vieri says you're not a bad player. You take that, you put that on a plaque, and you put that on the wall if you're Alexi Lalas, right? Who was there in Italy for a short period of time. I will say this, all right, and I don't know if people know, morning kick around watchers, people who have listened to the Best Soccer Show will probably have heard this. There is one particular person that gets a sit-down interview to comment on Christian Pulisic. He's in every single soccer documentary that has anything to do with American soccer. And I'm ready for us to move on from Roger Bennett being in every single damn doc. He doesn't have to be in every one. He doesn't have to. I know people like Roger Bennett. It's fine. The shtick is not my thing. I don't like it. It doesn't strike me in the right place. But enough. Why does he have? What is Roger Bennett adding to this documentary? I'm just curious. Like, what is he adding?
They wanted a familiar voice that throws a little bit of poetry or whatever he does to some
moves a lot. He's got the energy. Christian Pulisic. I don't know. It's okay.
All right, we'll move on. We'll move on. Your guy Antonee Robinson for your Cottagers played very well in Fulham's 1-1 draw.
Yeah, these are dropped points for Arsenal. Now, obviously, Merseyside didn't happen, so this is not going to in the moment feel as big because Liverpool didn't have an opportunity to add 3 points to their total. But for Arsenal, these are 2 drop points. I mean, I know it's at Craven Cottage, and Fulham's not a bad team, but this can't feel good for Arsenal. And shout out to Raul Jimenez, who has been pretty good for Fulham. It took him a long time to get fully healthy again, and I do not like him when he plays for L3. I don't like him when he's a Mexican international against the United States, but I respect the guy fighting back from what was a pretty nasty situation with the head injury when he was at Wolves. It's a well-taken goal. It's probably a little lax on the defending, but yeah.
It's only sports you can have that kind of completely conflicted, depending on the day you are cheering for them or cheering against them, depending on their the color of their shirt. But 1-1 kept Arsenal at bay. But going down the list of American abroad, we talked about it on Friday. Do we trust Tyler Adams to be a day-in, day-out player?
Yeah.
Didn't play at the weekend. Didn't dress.
Maybe it's a management thing. Maybe it is because you can't be 100% sure that Tyler Adams' body and hamstring, which was surgically reattached, could handle stuff like that, playing multiple games in a week. So he plays in midweek, and then he doesn't dress and doesn't play for Bournemouth in their weekend matchup, which, the important part for Bournemouth is the victory. Again, this is one of those things where I'm not going to panic. First of all, because I don't think I have any expectations around Tyler Adams yet. Like, I don't have this sense that he needs to be playing and he's got to play, because he hasn't been on the scene long enough with this return for me to kind of get used to him being a regular player. If this is, and it works out for Iraola, who has done a very good job, it works out for him, and he's got Tyler Adams maybe fit, feeling good, going into the festive period, the very busy part of the calendar in England, fine. Keep Tyler healthy. I hope he plays again soon, but keep him healthy.
Additional note, getting on the score sheet down in Liga MX, Brandon Vasquez came off the bench and scored for Monterrey, and Alex Zendejas scored for Club America on Sunday as well. Did you have any further notes on Americans before we move along?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. You mentioned the Vasquez goal. This is all coming amidst rumors that the San Jose Earthquakes are maybe going to make a run at Brandon Vasquez to jumpstart their new situation under Bruce Arena. Bruce has already executed a couple trades to get some players out of New England that he wants. I think, he's putting the band back together. I think Mark Anthony Kaye is now a Quake. There's a couple things there. Vasquez, of course, he never played for Bruce when he was in Major League Soccer, but he is a guy that knows the league and everybody knows can score in that league. So if they want to spend some money, and it would be a departure from where they've been, right? When I talked to Bruce Arena on the radio after he got the San Jose job, he said The ownership is ready to spend some money. Like, they're committed to this. They're trying to get better. They're not just going to sit on their hands and do the same thing they always do, which is, grab a new coach, shuffle the deck, same kind of players, and hope that they got it right this time. If they're going to spend the money it's going to take to get Brandon Vasquez out of Monterrey, then that's something. I don't know. We're talking $10 million or anything like that, because he hasn't scored enough in Mexico to have pushed up his price. I don't know. And from a national team perspective, I don't know that it really matters. I think Brandon Vasquez is very fringy as a national teamer. His toolkit is, I guess, a little bit limited for what Pochettino wants in a national team forward. I mean, he's a target guy. He's a big guy, but it seems to be lacking. And maybe that's a pace issue. Maybe it's an inability to press from the front the way that Pochettino would want. So I don't know that it matters. If he's playing regular minutes and scoring goals in Major League Soccer, he might enjoy his soccer a little bit better than he is in Monterrey.
Before we move on, I would be in the wrong for not mentioning the American trio for PSV. Each scored. So Tillman, Ledesma, and Pepe all started and scored in PSV's 6-1 win over FC20. So I don't know how many times that's ever happened before.
Yeah,
3
I don't know
Americans
if
scoring the same game.
In a European match somewhere. That's a good question. Somebody get some. Do we have a stats department? We got somebody checking on that. No, I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Now.
We will we'll find out if that's the thing. Obviously, it's good to have all the Americans scoring. Ledesma turning into a right back. Can we imagine Richie Ledesma, who has had this really terrible run of luck in terms of injuries that have slowed down his growth as a player? He's 24 years old now. It feels like Richie Ledesma's been around for 10 years. That's not true, but he was a teenager when people started taking note of him when he was with RSL's program before going over to Holland. If his position has changed and that's giving him a new lease on life, and he's thriving at PSV Eindhoven, I can't see a reason he might not be in the national team picture if he's doing it at a high level. I haven't watched enough of him to judge his defensive abilities and things like that, but it was a good goal. Weak side fullback, jumps in, gets on the end of something. Love to see that.
Exciting weekend abroad for Americans in